and your rights as a delegate. We can imagine a convention with 100 people in it, and we'll just say that because it's an easy number to deal with. And of this 100 people, 26 of them want to do something bad. Whatever a bad thing is, y'all can decide for yourselves, but they want to do something bad in the name of the convention. And at some point in the day, maybe because the ice cream truck is driven by and everybody's real excited to go get their treat, the population of the body dwindles down. But this group of 26, they're real dedicated. They're willing to skip their ice cream treat, and they stick around. And at the moment, 51 people are left. They look around and say, wait, all of a sudden, our 26 that used to be less than a third of this body, now we're a majority of this body. And we can now make a motion to do the bad thing we want to do this whole time. And once it passes, it will be the will of this body. Noticing that, 2 well-informed members of the body could take action to prevent this entire thing, realizing that this group of 26 people wasn't really representing the will of this much greater assembly of 100 people. And what they could do is, of the 51 people left, one of the 2 of them could leave, bringing the number down to 50, and the other one could make what's called a quorum call, requiring then that the chair make sure that there's at least 51 people in the room, which there wouldn't be at that point because the 51st just left. And if there aren't 51 people in the room, they would then have to stop business. They would not be allowed to make any motions until there are more people in the room. I've actually seen this kind of thing play out probably about 4 times over various select meetings, conventions. It's not a common thing, but I have seen it happen on multiple occasions where there were quorum competitions to get a vote either across a finish line or prevent it. The other thing that I think is going to be important to know about quorum in this convention actually deals with this bylaw. And I'll let Anna go through the bylaw and how this is going to affect your rights as it pertains to quorum.
Yeah, so part of the reason that it's important to go over that with our delegates is because we actually have a mechanism in our bylaws that allows a way for our quorum number to be reduced. Effectively, it would allow a delegate who maybe needs to get home for work or needs to catch a flight or whatever the case is, can sign out of the convention saying, I give consent to everybody who's remaining to continue to do business. And in doing so, removing your name from the permanent roll. Not removing the fact that you attended, but just the fact that you're being counted toward the quorum. So when you leave, it is important to keep in mind whether or not you are giving consent for the body to continue business, or if you want that if enough people leave that it's no longer representative, aka meeting a majority of the qualified participants registered as attending, that business would be required to stop. So keep that in mind. If you decide that you want to leave, you are free to go without signing out. You're going to be given a voter button that is going to indicate whether or not you are technically qualified to vote at the time of business. Turning in your voter button does not equate to signing out of the convention. That's a completely separate process. So just be mindful when you're leaving, whether or not you want to sign out or remain on the permanent roll. Anybody have any questions real quick about quorum and signing in and signing out? I'm not hearing anybody, so we'll move on. The convention schedule, checking in and checking out. We don't have the finalized schedule up just yet. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like we expect the credentials committee to have a table outside of the business hall starting at 4 p.m. on Friday. So if you get in anytime on Friday after 4 p.m., well, I say anytime, I think I think I heard they're running until 9, but we'll get an announcement about that and we'll get that out to all the delegates as soon as we know for sure. But assuming for the moment from 4 to 9, if you show up on Friday, you can pop by the credentials table, say, hey, I'm here. I am registering myself as attending, and they will get you your badge and any other printed or physical materials that you have, and they'll get you set up for attending the convention the next day when we start business. There will be a credentials table available throughout any time that the business meeting is in session, and a little bit before and a little bit after, usually about an hour before and an hour after, in case anybody needs to make any changes or anything like that. One of the things to keep in mind is that all of the extracurriculars related to the convention are going to be kind of at the whim of when the business meeting actually recesses for the lunch activities and adjourns for the day for the evening activities. So any of the times that you see on here we're going to adhere to them as best as we can, but it is going to be up to the decisions of the convention body when we actually call lunch for recess or go to or adjourn for the day or even for the entire convention. So keeping that in mind. Robert's Rules. So honestly, Robert's Rules is, I'm going to switch my screen real quick. Robert's Rules is more intimidating, frankly, than it should be. It is, for all intents and purposes, for what we're going to be doing, there are only a handful of motions that you're really going to be playing with very much. But let me get that switched over now. Window. Here we go. All right. So you're going to receive a printout like this at your seat at convention. And that way you can follow along. And if there's something that you want to do, you can reference this to make sure that you are prepared whenever you get up to the microphone. It's going to tell you things like, it's going to say, what do you want to do? What do you say to get that done? Can you interrupt somebody? This is something that we see happening a lot, especially with inexperienced delegates, is they will shout from their seat something that they want to do. If what you are seeking to do does not say, yes, it can be interrupted, then you need to wait your turn at the microphone, be acknowledged by the chair before you can actually go and make that. Sometimes that's going to mean that somebody else gets to that activity before you get to, but that is just unfortunately the way it kind of goes sometimes. If you do have as an example, a point of order that is something that can interrupt, you'll notice it does say yes here in the interruptible column. Most everything that you're going to want to do here is not going to be interruptible, so you're just going to have to wait your turn. Motions needing a second. A second is something that I feel like is pretty well understood. It's just when a certain type of motion gets made, at least one other person needs to say, yes, I want to vote on this as well. That's all a second is. It's not saying that you agree with it. It's just saying, yes, I want to take a vote on that as well. There's very little stuff that does not need to be seconded. But again, this will give you a clear idea of what to expect there. One of the things that a lot of delegates find to be frustrating is when a motion gets made and it doesn't get to be debated. There are a handful of things that are specifically, usually procedurally based, that are not debatable. So if you find yourself wondering why it is that somebody made a motion and we went straight to a vote, it's probably going to be under this can this be debated column, and it's probably going to say no. Can it be amended? Again, amendments feel pretty well understood. Can I make a change to the thing that's already on the floor that's happening? And then, of course, you have what the threshold is for the various different votes. Majority, It's going to be 50% plus one. 2/3, that's going to be a flat 2/3 or more. And there's very little that's going to require more than a majority. There are a couple of things in our rules, such as amending the statement of principles, which in my 12 years, I've never seen happen. So it is very difficult. It has to get 4/5 of the entire convention. So almost everything that you're going to see is going to be covered here, either by a majority or 2/3. Does anybody have any questions there?
I do have a quick pro tip on any of these items that says, can this be debated? No. Whenever you present a motion, you are allowed to give a short explanation of what you're wanting to do and why. This can't go into long, lengthy explanations, but if you miss that window, you then have no recourse to tell the body why you went up and said this thing in the first place. So a good example on this list may be to recess the meeting. It would be appropriate and recommended that if you want to recess the meeting to go to the bathroom, you say, I would move to recess the meeting because I feel some members need to go to the bathroom, because that will be your only chance to say why you're trying to do this.
Yeah. I did see a question come through asking if you guys can get a link. I will be sending this link out to everybody in the, oh, thank you for raising your hand, Austin. I will be sending a link out to all of the delegates ahead of convention to this. Jacob Bradley, who is on this call, has also committed to having physical copies present for all of the delegates. So we'll be able to have that. Austin, let's get you unmuted. Go ahead and unmute. What's your question?
Sorry, double muted. So for like ending debate, are these things all sequential, or like if I want to amend the motion but someone's already moved to end debate, that's not debatable? Is that how that works?
Oh, okay. So I think I understand your question. The motion to end debate is itself not debatable. Presumably at that point, the motion has been made and it's been debated for and against. And the intent with the motion to end debate or to move the previous question is at a point when somebody realizes we're just kind of rehashing the same arguments back and forth, we're not saying anything new, that's a good indication that debate is over effectively. And a good time to make a motion to call the previous question.
So the debate is connected to a prior motion? Always?
Correct. Yes.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right. Oh, something that I did want to cover here, as it relates to the vote that's needed, something to keep in mind, and this is also going to be relevant when it comes to our excuse me. It's also going to be relevant when it comes to our elections. In order for something to reach a majority or 2/3 or whatever the voting threshold is, that is going to be, unless otherwise stated, it's going to be a majority of the people who are voting. It's not going to be a majority of the entire body. So one of the things that you'll hear at the beginning, every time that we call to order, so the beginning of the convention, when we come back from any recesses, there's going to be a report given by the Credentials Committee that says what our quorum number is, what it takes to reach a majority, which should be the same, what our 2/3, 2/5 numbers are. We're assuming that, there we go. Those numbers are assuming that everyone is voting. So if we are having elections and somebody is declared to be the winner, but they haven't reached the majority of the last number that we heard from the Credentials Committee as being our majority number, the thing that's probably happening is that there have been a lot of abstentions. So, all right. Moving on. We come back to here. Oh, well, I guess I went into the credentials report. Oh, so once we call to order, the very first thing that's going to happen is that the Credentials Committee is going to report the temporary role to the body. In that, the people who are currently seated as delegates are going to be asked to approve that temporary role as the permanent role. It is not unusual if delegates have been left off for some reason, whether they've been declared ineligible or have maybe they're, honestly, if their county isn't affiliated, but they showed up and wanted to, a person who is already seated could make a motion to amend the temporary role to add those people, and then a vote will be held of the people currently seated as to whether or not to amend the role in that way, and then finally to adopt the temporary role, whether as it stood originally or amended as the permanent role. So that is going to be, before we do anything else, that's going to be what we kick the convention off with. Any questions on credentialing? All right. The next section is going to be convention officers. As far as convention officers go, this is going to be the secretary and the chair. These are typically filled by the person who is currently serving as the LP Texas State Chair and the LP Texas State Secretary. It doesn't have to be, and we have seen confusion in the past where somebody will think that these are the elections for the next term's officers. So if we've just done the credentials report and we're now moving on to convention officers, keep in mind we're just talking about the people who are going to be the functionaries of the convention itself, and we are not doing elections for state officers at that time. So if you nominate somebody who is not the state chair or the state secretary, I would make sure that they are aware that you're planning on nominating them, because it's a big job that takes a lot of preparation. And to surprise somebody with that would probably be chaotic. But if you're looking for a laugh, let's see. Moving on to the bylaws report. We're actually going to come back down here for that. So we have rules regarding bylaws report, or regarding committee reports. If you've looked at the convention prep page that I set up, the platform and bylaws reports are available there. They're also going to be on the documents page of the convention website, which, if you're looking at the screen, on the convention website, which is just 2026.lptexas.org, which I know most of you know because most of you already have tickets. There we go. Under contact/FAQ, there's a page called Documents, and that one is going to have ways to contact the committees if you've read it through the reports and you have any questions. Other information here as far as if you want to sign up to be a national delegate, the training deck, I believe this is the training deck for precinct and county conventions, but you're going to have your bylaws report here, your platform report here, a link to download the credentials report, and ways to contact all of the committees. So with that, the main thing is going to be, we're going to go in order of the reports as they've been presented to us by those committees. For the bylaws report, it is required that any changes to our bylaws get passed by a 2/3 majority of the convention body. Because these are the rules that the party works by throughout the course of the 2-year term, we do have a little bit higher threshold on there for changing them. So keep that in mind. If it seems like something sounds like it was well supported, it may have reached the threshold of a majority, but not gotten all the way to 2/3. Something specific to the bylaws report that tends to cause a little bit of confusion is that the only amendments that can be made to the bylaws report are proposals that have already been submitted to the committee, or that have been considered by the committee. Whenever the committees are formed, they are tasked with, within their first 30 days, having a meeting and determining what the deadline is for proposals to be submitted to them for their consideration. The bylaws committee this time set it for 30 days out from state convention, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
And we did receive some proposals recommended to us, as well as amendments to the proposals that we put out in our first preliminary report. So there are a few amendments that are going to be available to be made, but by and large on the bylaws report, we are just going to be reviewing the proposals as they've been prepared by the bylaws committee. Any questions on what goes on with the bylaws report?
I have a comment.
Let's give a second. Go ahead, John.
One asterisk on what was just said. It does take 2/3 to change the bylaws. Some of the proposals will affect a different set of rules called the bylaws of select, and those are only a majority. So pay attention to which document they're amending. It may change your threshold.
Thank you. That's a good point, and that's true. Actually show you in the bylaws report, it's going to have an indicator if something is a, here we go. Here we go. So on the 13th proposal here, there's going to be a section that's amending the bylaws generally, and then there's a section that's amending the bylaws of select. So since these are being presented together, they would be required to pass the higher threshold. We would be able to, if we wanted to, separate them out. I wouldn't, for this particular proposal, I wouldn't recommend that because passing one without the other would be kind of weird. But if you see one that is just a bylaws of select proposal, then that one could pass with just a majority. All right. Coming back before we move on to public and party office nominations and select elections, which will be done by Jacob Bradley. Does anybody have questions about the bylaws, or not the bylaws report specifically? We will be going over that in another call, but how we make amendments to our bylaws. All right, hearing none. Jacob, take it away.
All right, we are starting with. I'm starting with the elections of our candidates. We have quite a few candidates. I'm looking through here, and I see quite a few of them in our chat here today as well. When this comes time, the office will be announced for people to be nominated. If you are a candidate in here and this can be your first time, or you have somebody that you really like that's running for candidacy, this will be the time to get up and nominate them. Make sure that they have paperwork filled out. Don't just get up and nominate your friend sitting next to you because you think it'll be funny. But if it's somebody actually running for office, somebody will need to nominate them. So if you want that to be you, or you're running and you have a friend you would like to do it for you, or whoever, that'll be the time when this comes up. I pulled it up just to give you all kind of a rundown of who we have. There's about 10 candidates. We only have one contested race this time, and it is the United States Senator between Ted Brown and Mark Sims. So that'll be really the only contested race that we actually vote for one of the other. There's always a no to choice. You can pick that you're not a fan of anybody at any point in any of these races, and it just will be an unfilled seat. You could do that because you disagree with the person, or for, whatever reason. We do have Pat Dixon running for governor, Anthony Cristo running for lieutenant governor, Tom Oxford for attorney general, Alonzo Echevarria Garza, please don't kill me if you're in here, for comptroller of public accounts, Neil Schneider for commissioner of the general land office, Austin Kelly for commissioner of agriculture, Art DiBianco for railroad commissioner, and Mark Ash for Court of Criminal Appeals. These are not our only candidates. A lot of our candidates were picked in county and district races, so there are more candidates. I do think since I've been here, I joined in 2020, that is the largest group of candidates that will be picked at the state convention. I don't believe I've seen that many candidates prior, so that's a really nice sign. Once somebody is nominated, it will go for a vote. We could do this multiple ways: show of hands, OPA vote, which would be an electronic vote that would be sent to you. That's something that we'll have to address there. Once that does go, the majority of the qualified people voting for this would need to be had to get that vote. And like I said, there's NOTA for every race. So if I am running for governor and you decide to NOTA me and you don't want me to be there, I would thank you, but also you would have the ability to vote that no, you didn't want me there. And like I said, I would very much thank you for that. And I mean, that's really all I have on this one. There's not a whole bunch for it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, somebody will have to nominate those candidates. So if you were a candidate, find somebody to nominate you. I don't know if you can nominate yourself.
You can nominate yourself, yes. Yeah, you
Was
have
gonna
to be
say-
able to nominate yourself.
I don't think that I had seen that in the past. Usually, if you're running for office, you know at least one other person willing to get up and nominate you. So, Sean, you have your hand up. What can I do for you? Did Sean put his hand down? Is that what happened? All right.
Looks like it.
Ted.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yes,
Your
good
hand.
evening. Quick question, and I think Mark might have the same question, and that is, do we have a specific amount of time for nominating speeches, seconding, and for the candidate to say something during the nominations?
So that is a motion that gets made at convention. It gets decided at convention. I would recommend that if a person wants to allot time for nominating speeches, that they go ahead and get a motion prepared and written for the structure that they want that to happen under. But there is not a requirement for nominating speeches to happen according to our bylaws.
Okay, thank you.
Sean? We can't hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So is there any requirements in the bylaws for a NOTA entry? Or it just seems like every convention we have to vote on how we're going to vote.
Yes. There is not, and this part of the reason for this is so that it gives us flexibility depending on whether or not we have multiple candidates running for a given office, or exactly kind of what's going on at any given convention. There is a requirement that NOTA be an option for any candidates for public or party office. So if you are looking at the screen that I have shared right now, I've clipped out part of the bylaws that goes over that. We don't encourage delegates. We don't encourage that we not fill positions. But if you feel confidently that the person who is up for the position would not be the right person for the job, it has been a long held principle of the Libertarian Party that we are not compelled to fill any particular office. You'll see in VE 7.4, declining to nominate or elect candidate for office. This goes for public or party offices. If we aren't obligated to nominate somebody who has filled out an application for nomination, and we are not obligated to elect somebody who has been nominated, even if they are the only person nominated for the job. I would point out that there are 2 offices at the state level that if we do not fill those, we are not permitted to legally exist according to the state of Texas. That is our state chair and our treasurer. It is a, so you mentioned voting procedures. One of the only procedures that we do set forth other than NOTA being an option is that a majority is required for any public or party office. So that leaves us the option. We can do ranked choice voting. We can do approval voting. We can do first past the post. But for any of those, majority is a requirement, which for things like approval voting and ranked choice voting can mean that we end up with multiple rounds of voting. Often it doesn't, but it is an option. So when we're considering how we're going to vote, thank you, Paul. I will mention that for sure. When we're considering how to vote, be mindful of those sorts of consequences. Paul did mention that the bylaws committee has proposals 8 and 17 that have relevance to how NOTA would be impacted. Paul, can you remind me real quick? Actually, I'll see if I can pull it up. I know 8, we're asking for the convention. Yeah, on proposal 8, we're asking that it be implemented immediately. We can go into detail on the other call about that. And 17 is just a clarification of NOTA that basically says that if you vote for NOTA, you cannot also vote for other candidates on the ballot and have that ballot be counted. So that is public and party offices. Did you have anything else, Jacob?
No, that was it I had for that one.
All right. All right. So the next 3 sections, again, are need to be gone over because the bylaws committee has been hard at work changing the way that things go. So this is going to be select elections, judicial committee nominations and elections, and national delegate nominations and elections. For select, we have 2 different, and for anybody who this is your first time and you're not familiar with the structure of the state party, select SLEC is the State Libertarian Executive Committee. It is the body that is charged with running the business of the party, making the decisions for the party in between conventions. So it is the body that the state convention empowers to continue the business of the state convention in between conventions. And so right now, that body is made up of 2 positions for every state Senate district, of which we have 31. So that is 62 people. And then we have 4 officers, a chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer, making for a total potential body of 66. At close of the 2024 convention, I believe we had nearly 60 people on the board, so it was nearly full. And I can tell you from many years of experience that it's chaos to manage those meetings. It's chaos to schedule those meetings. And there are, I'll do a little exposition. I think there are more important things, more relevant things that volunteers for the party can be doing. It is a volunteer position. So with that, the bylaws committee is proposing a change to go to 12 at-large members, which means that they would be elected by the entire convention body, as opposed to the way they are now, which is that you'll have a little indicator on your delegate badge. And if I had been thinking, I would have uploaded an example of our delegate badges that says what your Senate district is, and everybody in the same Senate district will go and congregate in a specific area, and they'll hold an election to fill those 2 select spots, and then return the results of those conventions to the secretary, who will then tally or get everything together and make an announcement later on in the convention. If we adopt the bylaws committee's majority report proposal of 12 at-large members, we would hold nominations just like we do for our officer positions. But we would conduct our multi-seat balloting procedure instead of our single seat balloting procedure, which I will show you guys here in a moment. The second proposal that the bylaws committee is presenting as a minority report is going to be going from 2 members per district to 1 member per district and 1 alternate. So effectively the same number of people could be elected, but it would decrease the minimum number of people needed to hold a meeting. It would allow us to have meetings in smaller locations, which would save the party money, and free people up to make sure that their Senate district is represented, even if their primary representative is not able to make the meeting, by allowing their alternate to attend in their stead. I know that was a lot. Anybody have questions about select elections and the potential changes we might see there?
So is it going to be like the delegates where we just, sorry for not raising my hand, but will it just be like the delegates where there's a bunch of nominations?
Thank you. Good point. So the only people who are eligible to be elected to select are people who have submitted an application stating that they are interested. So kind of like the application for nomination that our candidates for public office have to complete in order to be nominated at convention, people who are interested in serving on select also have to complete an application to be compliant with our bylaws in order to be elected. So while nominations would be open like they are for public office, there is a limited number of people who would be eligible to be nominated. Does that answer your question entirely?
Right, but we're not nominating it to a specific at-large position is basically what I was trying to ask. It's just a slate, not a slate, but it's a
effectively, it would be handled kind of like the 2 Senate district positions are right now, or 2 representatives per Senate district, where you hold an election and generally the top 2 vote getters are the ones who get it. So in this case, it would be the top 12 vote getters who also get at least a majority of the votes of the delegates because of our majority requirement.
Has that been written into the bylaws, or is this something we're going to have to vote on at the time?
That is if we adopt the bylaws committee's proposal to change how select is constituted. And it is one of the proposals that we're asking the convention to put into effect immediately.
If I can add just one more piece onto that, there's also a proposal on how we vote on things. So if both the proposal on how we vote on things and the select proposal go into effect, then I would say we would use that proposal.
Yeah. So, Ken and Deanne, what do you got for me?
So on the first proposal you described, you said there would be 12 at large. Did you mean there would be 12 at large and 1 per Senate district, or grand total of 12?
So it would be a total of 12 representatives and 4 officers for the majority report proposal. The minority report proposal would be 1 person per Senate district and an alternate for a total of 31 representatives and 4 officers, as opposed to what we currently have, which is up to 62 people plus 4 officers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions before we move on to Judicial Committee? Yes.
Yeah, the question, if we adopt the majority report to go to the 12 at large, you said the only people to be eligible would those who have previously submitted their names for select?
Correct.
And was there a cutoff, and how and where do you do that?
There is not currently a cutoff. And on the on the LP Texas website, if you go to our, and I believe Kyle Russell is on here, so if there's a better place to go for this, let me know, Kyle. Yeah, so on the state party website, go to our party and leadership, and I can send this link out actually later. Actually, it looks like Sean Sparkman just dropped it in the chat, but you scroll down, it says Senate District Representative, our public forum, and it also has an interest form that you can click on and fill out, and that satisfies the requirement to complete an application to serve on
thank you.
SELEC. So I will make sure that that gets sent out in our email as well. Any other questions?
One more note on that form. That form is not actually part of the proposal. That form is part of the existing structure too. So
Correct.
if you're planning on running at all, whether the motion gets adopted or not, you still need to fill out this form.
Correct. All right. So moving on to judicial committee nominations. As it currently stands, so we have had a judicial committee for, this will be the third term. There's currently one vacancy on that committee. If there are vacancies at the time of convention, we are, according to our bylaws, required to attempt to fill those at convention. So I will also send out a link to judicial committee nominations. There are additional requirements to be seated on the judicial committee. You can't have been a staff member or a select member for a certain period of time in an effort to try to, and you have to have been an affiliated member for a certain, even longer period of time, in an effort to make sure that the people on that are proven members of the party, but are also not people who are actively involved in the political machinations of the party at the time. I will send that out as well. Judicial committee, or got it? Okay. So as it stands right now, the judicial committee is elected at large, again, like our chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. It is from generally a list of people who have completed the judicial committee application, again, meeting certain requirements, which oftentimes the secretary has to verify on the fly, which is not fun, but it's also not that big a deal. There is a proposal by the bylaws committee to disband the judicial committee entirely. There was a lot of back and forth on this, discussing whether we need a judicial committee. So I would invite you, if you have strong feelings about that, to attend the bylaws call. And we can go over all of the ins and outs of whether or not to disband it, but just be prepared that we either will be filling most likely one seat on the committee, and that's assuming that nobody resigns in the next week and a half, or we will not be filling it at all, and in fact disbanding it, depending on what the convention decides. Any questions on judicial committee? Fantastic. National delegate nominations. Paul, I know I didn't ask for your input on this ahead of time, and I probably should have, because you are so well versed in it. If you have something you would like to say as far as that structure, I am more than happy to turn the floor over to you. Otherwise, I can keep going.
Excuse me, you're saying for the structure there for select, you're saying?
No, for national delegate nominations.
National delegate nominations.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Some of our things might apply to that, but as far as national delegate, we have so many slots right now for national delegates. I highly encourage people just to vote. Pretty much everybody on there, that it should be pretty easy. I'm trying to encourage people to come on and do that. I would just say not to do it like we did last time in the voting. That seemed like the most painful way in the world that we could have done to you there as a Secretary Anastasia. So hopefully some of these bylaws changes will make that less painful for those counting the votes.
Yeah, when I saw the votes come back on that, because the system that we used was not equipped for electing so many people at a time, I literally cried. I think I hid behind my computer monitor, but when I saw the way that it presented it, I shed a couple of tears. That was a nightmare. But yes, Ken or Deanne, what have we got? Ken and Deanne, I see your hand up. What questions did you have?
I'm sorry. Is there a deadline to turn in to fill out the form to be a national delegate?
So as it stands right now, there is not a deadline. And in fact, there's also not a requirement to submit an application, although it is highly encouraged, and I have a note already to send that link out as well. The bylaws proposal that I have on the screen would set a, oh, nope, that's the wrong national delegate proposal. Would set a deadline, which is a pretty, it's a pretty generous, there we go, deadline of 5 p.m. the day before the nominations. So typically nominations for national delegate happen on Sunday. And so it would essentially say that by 5 p.m. Saturday, you've got to decide whether or not you want to be a delegate. So while that is not a rule, and it's not one that we're asking to be implemented immediately, it is something that I would encourage just because it makes everything go smoother. It is not unusual for national delegates to be the thing that we end up spending probably the most time on for any given order of business, any singular order of
For
business.
sure, any election.
Yeah.
The reports may go longer.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on national delegates? Okay. Then the last thing that we have is going to be platform committee reports. It is the thing that people tend to be the most passionate about. And so I guess I can't speak to this entirely, but it's my suspicion that we put it last to try to keep people at convention the entire time. But I guess I wasn't on the committee when that happened, so who knows? The platform committee, the platform proposals, unlike the bylaws proposals, can be amended from the floor. It can be chaotic. So like I was telling Ted about nominating speeches, if you have an amendment that you want to make, I would strongly recommend going ahead and having that written out. It is particularly polite to be able to hand a written version or a typed version to the secretary. And I guess you don't have to hand it to them if it's typed. You can usually email the secretary during the convention to get them the phrasing specifically. But it makes sure that things get recorded properly and that all of the delegates understand exactly, and that we do vote on your amendment as you actually intended it. The proposals in the platform report are going to be in order of their support by the platform committee itself. So it starts with recommendations that received a unanimous vote by the committee, then proposals that received a unanimous vote minus abstentions, and then those proposals receiving a majority or a favorable vote, but don't have a minority report, and then the ones that had a favorable vote but do have a minority report. I'm slightly embarrassed to say that I haven't gone through the platform report in its entirety yet, but I don't think they have any minority reports this time, so that should be easy. That's probably going to be, while it tends to be chaotic because there can be amendments made from the floor, it does also tend to be strategically or structurally one of the easiest parts of the convention. And asking for questions, I see Ted's got his hand up, and we will move on from there.
Oh, just real quick, I'm on the platform committee and there are no minority reports. And we didn't really do that thing about number of people supporting and opposing and all that to do the order, because it was almost unanimous, I think, on just about every proposal.
You're on the state platform committee?
Yes, I was added on a couple months back because they had a vacancy.
Nice. Good deal. I knew you were on national. I didn't realize you were on state too. Cool. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And thank you for that clarification. Does anybody else have any questions about handling the platform committee report? All right. That's everything that I have. Does anybody have questions about anything else related to the convention? What to expect, reports, anything else like that?
I have something real quick. Back to the officers. We talked about the candidates. I want to go back to the officers real quick. It's the same voting as candidates, basically, so there's not a whole lot to go over. I just didn't want to let everybody know who had filled out interest forms.
Okay.
Andrew, myself, and Joe Roberts have filled out one for chair. Mike Coogan and Robert Radford have filled out one for treasurer. Paul Dar and Scott Talley have filled one out for vice chair. There has been absolutely nobody who has filled one out for secretary. If you can type fast and you are good at organizing things, and Anastasia could probably be a better person to tell you what all you need to do on there because she was our former secretary. But if that is something that interests you, that is something that is available. If anybody would like to do that. Also, for the people on here, is it next Wednesday, Anastasia? Next Tuesday?
The candidate, or rather the Candidates for Republican Party office Q&A is happening next Thursday. So the day before be arriving in Abilene, Gesundheit.
So if y'all have any questions for any of the candidates, like I said, there are a bunch. Hopefully most, if not all of them, will be there, officer side and candidate side, so you can get in your questions and talk to them.
Yep. All right. Anybody have any other questions? My, oh my. Well, it looks like we are going to wrap this up in just under an hour. I hope I didn't go too fast. I have made my contact information available on the convention prep website, just because it is very important to me that our delegates have everything that they need as far as, there we go. Yeah, my contact information is going to be one of the first things you see when you get there. If you have any questions, reach out. If I didn't cover anything in here that you think would be important to make sure that the delegates know ahead of time, hit me up. I will do my best to make sure that it gets out to them as well. There is another convention prep training happening on April 7th. Yeah, Tuesday, April 7th at 7 p.m. That one is being conducted by the Credentials Committee. It's going to have a lot more to do with how to handle voter buttons and the delegation captain process and all of that, so that you can make sure that if your county has alternates, that your delegates are properly seated and your alternates are also able to hop in and get to participate as well whenever the delegates are maybe stepped out of the room or something like that. Austin, you had a question?
Disregard. Thanks.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight and for your input. And I look forward to seeing you guys at convention on Friday. If I don't see you Friday, then I'll see you Saturday. Feel free to come and say hi. And especially if this is your first time, I will make myself as available as possible because I know it can be intimidating. And I am more than happy to help you navigate whatever it is that you're confused about.
Hold on, I do have one more thing.
Of course.
Friday, well, yeah, Friday is they're having like outside the convention space, like a carnival type area with games and stuff like that. There'll be axe throwing. There is, I believe, only one activity that will be paid for. It will be the dunk booth. And I will be on the dunk booth from 6:30 to 9, I believe.
Good Lord.
So if you are tired of hearing my voice, or I have bothered you on Select, or if you're a county chair and I have called you and harassed you too much, 1 ball for $2, 3 balls for $5. Come see what you can do to get me in the water.
Hell yeah.
Where does that money go?
Just the general fund.
Okay.
And maybe a towel so I can dry off at the end. I don't know.
I'll bring you the towel I use on my dog. All right. Sorry, guys. All right. Thank you so much for attending. We'll see you at convention. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Lots of good information. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Anna. Goodbye.